Hi, this is Chris. In this session we'll cover assigning materials and sections to shells. There are actually 4 different topics that we'll cover here: defining and assigning materials that'll apply to shells, defining and assigning thicknesses, reviewing material and thickness assignments in the graphic display, and then reviewing and editing material and thickness assignments in the shell data table. Let's start by talking about defining materials. I'll come up to Assign Properties and then choose Materials. Notice that there's a default material already defined. It looks like steel. In this case, what we'd like to do is define a concrete material, so I'll use the Standard Material button and then choose 3KSI Concrete and click OK. Now I haven't pre-selected any shells in the background, so I can't assign it at this time, but I'll just click Apply to save that material. Now that we have that concrete material defined, we can press Ctrl A to select all the shells in the model, and then come up to Assign Properties, Materials, make sure that the row associated with the concrete material is selected. Check this box that says Assign Active Material to Currently Selected Elements, and then click Apply. And now we've assigned that 3KSI concrete to all of the shells in the model. Now let's talk about defining and assigning thicknesses to shells. Thickness is really the only property that's required for the analysis of a shell in ENERCALC 3D. So what we'll do this time is make use of some pre-defined or pre-selected shells by using a named selection. I'll come to Select by Properties and then down to Selection Names, and I'll choose this one called Drop Panel and click OK. That just pre-selects the 4 shells in each of the 4 corners of the overall mesh. My idea is that we'll make these a little bit thicker. So with those selected, what we'll do is come to Assign Properties and then down to Shell Thicknesses. And we'll create a thickness of 12 inches. And we'll assign that thickness to the selected shells and click Apply. Then what I can do is I can come back to View, Select by Properties, Selection Names. I'm just reselecting those drop panel elements, and then I'll use this tool called Invert Selection, which deselects the drop panel selection and selects everything else instead. Now I can come back into Assign Properties, Shell Thicknesses. I can add one new row. I'll call this Field, and I'll make this 8 inches thick. I'll check the box to assign to the currently selected shells and click Apply, and now I've assigned thicknesses both to the thicker corners as well as to the thinner field of the mesh. Now what we might want to do is review these material and thickness assignments on the model view. So let's take a look at what we can do for annotation of shells. I've just used this little A icon to open up annotation. And then if we come down to shells, notice that we can annotate shell number, thickness, material, local axes, and so on. So let's for now turn on shell thickness. And there we can see that in the field we have the 8-inch thickness, but in the panels near the corners we have the 12-inch thickness. If we go back and take a look at materials, it's a little bit harder to see, but if we window in, we can see that everything has been assigned material 2, which is that 3KSI concrete. The last thing that we want to do is take a look at the shell data table. So I'll come to Tables and then down to Shell Data. And here we have a table of all of the shells that have been defined in the model with their shell ID and their nodes. But what's of particular importance for this video is the material column and the thickness column. So notice that we could come to any shell in the model, click on its material cell, and we could alter its material to any of the other materials that have been defined in this model. And likewise, if we came to a thickness, we can choose any of the defined thicknesses as well. So this is a good way to review the assignments that have been made for your shell materials and thicknesses, but also keep in mind that it does allow you to modify those thicknesses and material assignments if you need to. Hopefully this has been a helpful look at defining and assigning shell materials and thicknesses.